Hello, everyone. Thank God it's Saturday. This is the rare opportunity my wife can see what I actually do. She's here. Please, one big applause. Also, there is her best friend, Tanya, with her. And also, here is my cousin, Sanya. So, I'm the luckiest, actually, of all the presenters here. The future of design is a very tough subject, and I think that you all expect from me to talk about the technology and stuff like that. But I really don't want to talk about it. I don't think it's the main truth about it. Design didn't start with me, strangely enough, just a few years before I was born. So it started with, of course, a need for communication. Humans wanted to communicate, so they invented sign language. And it went all through Mesopotamia and, of course, Egypt. And later on, it was developed as, because they were living in a word era, which was a craft known as calligraphy. And after that, in 1448, there was an era of print, which was started with Gutenberg. In this part of history, we developed a science called typography, which is very, very important to today's communication. And print era, the era of book, which we believed in, lasted all the way to 1968, when the television finally succeeded defeating the last revolution for the common sense in '68. So we are now living in visual era right now. Of course, some would argue that we are also living in a digital, starting living in a digital era. But that's another story. I'm not a digital professional, so I will not talk about that. But where we live right now is that in visual era, more than 85% of all global communications are visual, which means that all of us are very, very saturated with everything what we see. And somebody has to design that, all of those very, very complex communications. And that came to the point where we are now living in a world where nothing really matters, but everything is very important, which is, of course, a schizophrenic world. And this is how it looks, actually. We are all stick to our devices, to screens, trying to see the perfect reflection of ourselves there. There are tools that enable us to do that, like Instagram, for example. It's a top-end shit for that. But, of course, I use it. Everyone uses it because it's useful. But it's also a drug. So, and this is where our emotions are right now. It's very mixed, confused. Some of us know how to use these emojis, but it's actually something that is what we've seen before the caveman. So we are now back to the sign language, actually. What is going to be done for sure, because I was struggling to see the future of design, is somebody will make an app, definitely, soon enough, where you superficially choose whatever you want by one click on the button, and then you see, okay, this is my decision. The future of design is bright, bleak, fantastic, great, or doomed. So this is, this is how we live. We just give these decisions not thinking about the context whatsoever. So it's very hard to be a designer in that kind of world. And of course, the artificial intelligence is coming. This picture looks definitely scary, but I never did any harm to any machine in my life. Please let this be noted. When they take over, I was really nice to all of my computers and telephones. If I broke some phone, it was really accidentally. But I use technology every day of my life, but I really use it as a tool. Everybody knows that a tool can be used for making something or destroying something, for building or complete destruction. So it's really about us, how we are using that. Design is, of course, not about the surface, but all of us think that, that's the common sense, is that design is something superficial, nicely done, that everybody will like. So this is the world we live in. So design, nobody thinks that design is what it really is, and it is about thinking. It's only about thinking. It's a process of thinking how to communicate emotions. This is the real thing, and this, whoever works as a designer without knowing this, he's just doing nice pictures, which never communicate to anyone. So this is the shallow thing, which can, of course, if you're very skillful and you know how to use these things, they can be also very humorous, funny, and put in some other context. So it can look very nice. But what we need now, in order to change, to be better as a civilization, is to go deeper, definitely. So the future of design is about the past in every one of us. It's very hard to work from the surface. We have to, all of us, go deeper. It's not only about design, of course, it's about the truth that we have in ourselves. That truth is usually somewhere when you were a kid, when you were completely unaware of the life and all the structures, all the roles you will take in and stuff like that. So this naivety is something that we need to practice more. Design is definitely personal. It's a thing that everybody here has a lot of design decisions during the day. So you choose what you will wear, you choose what you will drive, or who will drive you, or whatever else. So those decisions are just design decisions. And when I say personal, it's about, it's about me, actually. And of course, I was very cute when I was a kid. This is how I got married. She just saw this picture and said yes, And it was actually done, this photo, when I was 5 years old. My uncle, Sanya's father, took this photo, and I'm very proud of it. I'm really, really cute. I cannot stop looking at this picture. And of course, as every normal person, when I was a kid, I was, doing this very, very normal stuff for kids. But then later on, of course, it escalated, and I started to draw more and more and more, and I became a professional, so I did a lot of things. I won a lot of awards for what I was doing all my life. But at the end, it was all for somebody else, actually, trying to get some recognition, some love, some support, some whatever. But it wasn't about me from the inside, So I needed to come up with something that will shift my focus in my life in order to stay creative, because I've been working this for 35 years almost. When I was 16, I started, I got my first award, and I was just hooked on this award-driven system of everyday work. And I realized that I have to change disciplines within creativity. It was really hard decision, especially for my loved ones who suddenly felt like, okay, he's not going to do this design anymore. He's now trying to experiment with some other stuff. But actually, because I was doing and working a lot in this corporate world, in material world that we all live in, and we have to accept it and try to change it from the inside somehow. The only way I could do that is to try and become an artist, to look deeper in myself and see what I have to say about that world. So the first step out of that is the exhibition that I made called You Are an Idiot, Please Act Accordingly, which was definitely the critique of the system, of everything, but actually it came out for me that it was my own critique of myself within that system. So I made this stuff, which almost killed the cleaning lady in the morning when she saw this. It's made of plaster. It's not the real guy. It's called Hang Time. It's a sculpture, and of course, self-portrait in a life size. So it was very critical about myself. So then I realized, okay, this is very nice. I look to myself now in a mirror like somebody's told some truths about himself. And then I was very lucky to have this gift of having a child with Olya, you know, and Nadia is our daughter, who is very, very inspiring for me. And she changed my life completely. So the second step out of my comfort zone as a designer was writing and illustrating a book for kids, for her, actually, for her birthday first. But then that book was very successful, and it went to the bookstores, and kids just, you know, loved it. So it's another step out of the comfort zone, but it wasn't about me at all. It was about those kids at the end, because I told something from inside of me, some truth about myself. Because, of course, in this book, this girl doesn't know what to do with the task that she got in the school, because she was supposed to draw something freely without any task. So it was a free subject. So she cannot do anything. I was like that for 40 years of my life. I couldn't draw anything without having been given a task. So again, I looked deeper in myself. And, you know, I wasn't drawing for 25 years, actually. I was doing this design for years. And I had 6 months to complete this book. So it was very, very hard job. It wasn't paid very well, of course, but it was paid with love of my daughter. And she's very proud. And also the kids from her class, you know, those are the things that you never will get working for a corporate client, you know, for a material world that we're in. And the third thing, when I went out of my comfort zone, is to tell my own story, because I felt compelled when, you know, this book was very successful. I said, okay, I will be a writer now. So my wife, you know, she's now laughing there and maybe a little bit crying, but it was very tough. I did it in 1 month. I wrote the book about my life, which I thought was interesting for people to hear. And what actually happened to me when I was 9 years old, I fell at the football game, and I bumped my head and forgot everything that happened to me since I was born till 9 years old. So the book is about that, how to cope with this lost identity. And 30 years later, in the same day, my mother died and my daughter was born. So that triggered the remembrance of everything 30 years later. So the book is about, again, having 9 years together with my daughter. So it's very tough, as you see. It's very hard for me to talk about it. But the book is, since starting today, is in stores. So it's called 9, of course. And it's about me again. As you can see, that nothing really changed inside. But the main thing I want you to remember from this talk is that, you know, never kill your inner child, and the future of design is in you. Thanks.